Hello and welcome to another video and podcast from Fantasy Football Scout as we look ahead to Fantasy Premier League Game Week 24. My name is Joe and as usual I am joined by Fantasy Football Scout's editor Neale to discuss all the latest injury and lineup news from today's press and yesterday's press conferences indeed. Neale, welcome. How are you?
Well, they're busy, Joe. We just had about, I think, 10 at 1:30 and then a couple either side of that as well. So
yes.
Yeah, we've had 14 press conferences today, 6 yesterday. So we've got a full complement to go through.
Indeed. And I've just managed to squeeze in the last two press conferences I was missing. So I haven't managed to get them onto the roundup bit at the end, but I have got those tweets in. Welcome to those that joined us in the live chat. Do press that like button and also do remember to subscribe if you're not already. I'm sure most of you already are, but do subscribe. Tell your friends to subscribe as well. And also do check out fantasyfootballscout.co.uk for latest offers for the members area to get lots of access to all the tools and stats and all the good stuff to help you climb up your mini leagues. Welcome to FPL Lord, SBAM, Danny, McAllister, FPL Copycat, Ian, Geo Boys, FPL Marshall, Todd, Light Rays, Sandeep and many more who've joined us early on. Thanks for joining us. Let's hope we give you some good team news. Danny asked how the dogs are. One's asleep by me, but as soon as someone dares to move outside, a squirrel perhaps, they'll go absolutely mad. So watch out for that a little bit later. Let's have a look at the first match. It's Man City against Everton. Dare we captain a City player in the early kickoff? What is the latest from Man City?
Not much for once. A fully fit squad, we think. Pep was asked. It was a very, very short press conference. There is an embargoed section to come later tonight at 10:30. But he said, well, we weren't aware of any injuries. They had a fully fit squad on Monday for Brentford. Nothing obvious emerged from that. And then all Pep said today was, we'll have a training session after this, in a few hours. We'll see how everyone is.
Okay, so what do we think the lineup's going to be? Usual suspects?
I don't know. I haven't got to that part yet, Joe. Last Monday we saw all three of Foden, Alvarez, and Haaland start, which was guessable because he has done that before when he's faced deep blocks and 5-man defences. Now Everton don't play with a 5-man defence, usually, but they do have a deep block a lot of the time, so it might have something similar.
Okay.
Certainly a chance of one or two horses for courses changes. I will have a predicted lineup up later on, of course, later in the day.
I would imagine Alvarez and De Bruyne could potentially be going for the same role. So that might be tough. I don't know. It's just speculating. It's hard to second guess him. So good luck when you do that, and do look out for that. Yeah. Fantasy Football Scout. See what Neale has predicted there. As for Everton, are they in similar fine fettle?
Not as well. No, they've got a handful of issues. This is one of the 6 press conferences held yesterday. They will have Onana, or it might have Onana back. He's been back out on the grass. Could be in contention. He hasn't been out for very long, which is fluid on the knee, so not a long-term thing. So he could be available. But they're still without Danjuma, still without Gomez, still without Doucouré, and of course Dele Alli is a long-term absentee as well.
Rightio. Okay, let's move on to Fulham against Bournemouth. Let's go for the home side first. Jimenez was out last week. That was for a while. Presumably he's still out. Any other news?
Yeah, 1 or 2 bits. Jimenez was another update on him today. Another month at least with his hamstring issue. Kenny Tete has joined him. He's got a minor Achilles problem. And then they've still got Iwobi and Bassi on international duty. We think Diop's still sidelined as well, but we're not sure. We didn't get an update on him. Elsewhere, though, it's pretty good. So Amanda Broja's fine. Picked up a knock last week on his debut. He's recovered. Harry Wilson's back a bit earlier than we thought from a shoulder problem. And the lesser spotted Adama Traore is back as well. He's from a lengthy hamstring injury, so he could be in the squad this weekend.
Okie doke, right here. And as for Bournemouth as well?
Yeah, nothing much new there that I've seen so far. There's a few press conferences I've yet to witness all the way through, and this is one of them. But we think that they're still without Aarons, Hill, Adams and Frederick, so they're the 4 pre-existing ones. Philip Billen begins a 3-match ban. He was sent off last week. They will have their new signing, Enes Ünal, in the squad this weekend. He's a new striker, probably going to be back up to Solanke.
Okay. What do we think the lineup there is? I mean, obviously, Solanke's going to play. A lot of people are thinking of removing him because people are looking for other strikers, Liverpool, etc., etc. Yeah, I know there's always been a bit of rotation on the wings for Bournemouth as well.
Yeah.
And is that likely to continue this time around?
Yeah, that is one of the areas. That's what puts you off getting someone like Tavernier, who's sort of semi on the radar for those doubles in 28. But that has been the area where he's rotated most of the season. He's got Sinistera. He's got, I mean, Brooks is gone now, but he was part of the equation as well. Utara, Semenyo, Tavernier, as we say, others as well. So there's week to week uncertainty there. The likes of Senesi is going to start every week. The likes of Zabani as well. Solanke's obviously nailed when fit. It's those wide areas where there's a bit of doubt.
Right, yeah. Okay, let's go for Liverpool. Burnley, big news at Liverpool. We want to know whether Salah's going to be back. We want to know what else is happening and whether anyone's got a cold or not.
Yeah, there's a lot to get through here. Start with Salah. He's not going to be involved this weekend, which is no real surprise because he wasn't in full training yesterday. Was in the gym. There's no guarantee he'll be back for game week 25 either, at least not for the first game. Klopp said he's going in the right direction, and then they hope he's going to be in parts of training next week. So it didn't say full training, parts of training.
Okay.
And then he finished by saying it's either next week or the week after.
Okay.
And if you ask the player himself, he'll say next week because Salah obviously wants to be back as quickly as he can.
Yeah.
But yeah, some doubt there. And even if he is past fit for game week 25, I would expect there'll be a maximum of one start at most.
Yeah. Given
that he's just back from a hamstring, and then there's a League Cup final coming up after that.
Yeah, I would imagine the League Cup final is the key game for him to be back, and he'll need minutes before that. Could be limited minutes, so it could be advisable to go for perhaps one of the other Liverpool attackers during this spell. Lots of other news at Liverpool, though, isn't there?
Yeah, I've barely touched it yet, haven't I? The rest of the team news. Szoboszlai is running outside, but he's still out. Thiago's got another muscle injury, and that could be the end of his Liverpool career because he's going to be assessed and might be out for months. Connor Bradley's still unavailable. He's on compassionate leave following the sad death of his father. So obviously that's a start for Trent this weekend. In his absence, he could return to team training next week, but not 100%. Matip's still out long term. Canati is banned as well. Endo back over international duty, and Tsimikas has been pictured in training, so he could return. On top of all this, there's a potential, I wouldn't say outbreak, but there's been a few cases of flu going to Klopp. Now, we had a look at some training photos from Thursday, and as well as Salah not being on the training pitch, and as well as Szoboszlai, who are injuries, Joe Gomez wasn't on there, so maybe he's one of those affected.
Okay.
So that could be Robertson covered in. Of course, the thing about flu is that it spreads. Yeah. So people who were pictured in training on Thursday, could still be affected by it going into the weekend. We'll see.
Yeah, and it depends what he means by flu as well, because flu is like you can't move.
No.
A cold you can.
Just one follow up on that. Westfield Lions on Scouts had mentioned to me just before I came online, will we get any more information from the embargoed section? I don't think there is an embargoed section for Liverpool.
Okay.
So your best bet is to just keep an eye on any team news breaking tomorrow morning, perhaps. I think.
And as for Burnley, I did the Great and the Good video podcast this morning with Greyhead, and we were marvelling at the number of so-called elite managers like ourselves who have Taylor still in their squads for Burnley. Will Taylor be back for Burnley?
Well, you don't know with company because he's a bit duplicitous when it comes to team news. He did actually mention him yesterday, which was a start. He said he's quite positive on Taylor and Delcroix, who are two of the three yellow flags.
Okay.
And then hopefully it's positive news. But he said last weekend, he said one of those three would be back and none of them were. So he's certainly he's had a good schooling from Pep over the years, I think.
Yeah.
Jordan Baez, obviously the other one of the yellow flagged Burnley players. He's been out for a month. No mention of him, so we assume he's behind the other two. And then longer term, there's Kolyoshu and Redmond as well.
Rightio. Okay, well, let's move on swiftly to Luton against Sheffield United. Lots of interesting Luton players with their upcoming double and another double in 28, although they do blank in 26. What shape are Luton in going into this clash?
Yeah, the very last press conference I saw today. One new concern, and that's Ted Mengi, who's been excellent recently. Picked up an ankle knock in training on Thursday, so he's going to be assessed. Apart from that, the other ones are still injured. That's Nakamba, Lockyer, and Anderson. Okay. Right, yeah. The new signing, Hashioka, who's a right wing back, a right back. He's still adjusting to the squad and won't be involved.
Okay. Rightio. And as for Sheffield United, lots of predicting they will lose this because they haven't been in good form recently, and Luton have. But yeah, nevertheless, what shape are they in?
Still going to be Gerbic, who's the new goalkeeper. He was concussed in, when was it, about 10 or 11 days ago. And it's actually a 12-day protocol for him, so it must have been a serious one. So not just the usual 6. So he's going to miss out by 1 day. So he's not going to be involved. Didn't offer anything else Wilder other than bumps and bruises. Brewster's back from suspension.
Okay.
McBurney wasn't missed last weekend with a tight calf. I think they might have been saving him for this.
Okay.
Basham and Egan out long term. And Max Lowe and George Baldock, they were their original timelines was around about now, so we might see those.
Righty. Okay, let's move on to Tottenham hosting Brighton. This promises to be a goal fest because neither side can keep a clean sheet. Both score very regularly. How about Spurs? They've probably got a few players coming back from international international duty, haven't they?
They do, yes. They had Sarr last week, and this week it's going to be Basuma and Son Heung-min as well, who's back from Asian Cup, probably a bit earlier than he would have liked. They're both going to be available, both ready to start.
Okay.
Postecoglou did say that Son had a tough tournament with lots of extra time and late finishes and things like that, but I'm sure he'll be chomping at the bit to get going. Lo Celso's back in training as well, so that only really leaves Solomon and Sessegnon on the injury list.
Okay. Meanwhile, for Brighton, they are going to be missing one of their attacking players, aren't they? They
are, yeah. The penalty merchant, Joao Pedro, who's he's out and could be out for a little while. Okay. Andrea Maldera's filling in today for De Zerbi, who I think was it dental surgery or something? Yes. So might not be. In fact, he's banned, I think, tomorrow anyway from the touchline. So. But anyway, Pedro's going to be out and might be out for weeks. I think they're still assessing the extent of that. But he's going to be red flag now. Mitoma is available. He's back from the Asian Cup. Okay. I think the extent of his involvement still to be determined. And Veltman's near a return, I believe. He was a few days away. I haven't actually seen the rest of the team use other than Pedro and Veltman. But of course, Enciso's out and March out as well.
Okay, so I mean, there's a few knock-on effects from that. With Pedro being out, that could mean that Pascal Gross is in a more advanced role. It could mean that Pascal Gross is on penalties as well. So I know people are removing Pascal Gross, but I think he'll be on penalties against Spurs. But also with Mitoma coming back, then De Zerbi can of course go into more of a wingers rather than wing backs. So that could mean that Estupiñán and Hinshelwood move back. There is still doubt over Estupiñán. Hinshelwood seems nailed on. Estupiñán less so at the moment because Lamptey's been doing quite well. So yeah, remains to be seen. But I think if I was buying a Brighton defender at the moment, not that I perhaps would, but one for attacking threat, I think I'd go for Hinshelwood. I think he is. I think there was a quote from De Zerbi today saying he was a first name in the 11, or one of the first names in the starting 11. So
he's a midfielder in FPL. That's the only thing. He won't get his clean sheet points. But he's budget. I think isn't he 4.5 or something? Yeah. So he's cheap.
Yeah, no, good point there. Sorry, because I hadn't even considered getting him in FPL. He's a midfielder there, sadly. But that just shows the attacking threat that he does possess. So, fingers crossed the Estupiñán starts for his owners there. Wolves against Brentford. But Wolves, how are they? They got another returning star, haven't they, from the international duty?
Yes, Boubacar Traore. Now, of course, we're talking about Hwang Hee-chan. Both of those are back from their respective tournaments, and I think it's a fully fit squad. O'Neale said today they had a bit of illness in the camp earlier in the week, but that's recovered. That's all clear now. Everyone trained on Friday. And Hwang and Traore, they're ready to start, but he did sort of hint towards a benching for Hwang by saying He's a great, fantastic option either way.
Right.
And they won 4-2 at Chelsea last week with Sarabia, Neto, and
Yeah.
Cunha up top. So I think it might be the same three again.
Rightio. And as for Brentford as well.
Yes, this was one of the three yesterday. Josh De Silva's the latest addition to the injury list. He's had got a serious knee injury and he's going to require surgery.
August 2022 FPL star. Many teams for about a week then.
Yeah, the classic early season bandwagon, isn't he? He scored from, wasn't it, 2 shots and 2 goals and 2 shots or something.
For him.
Yeah. And he's barely featured since, actually, because he's been plagued with injury. He joins Mbomo, Hickey, Sharda, and Henry on the injury list. Avissa and Onyeka, they're still at the Africa Cup of Nations. Godos is back though from Asian Cup. He could feature. Okay. And I think that's it.
Okay, right, moving on. Nottingham Forest against your side, Newcastle. This Nottingham Forest one just came in just as I was about to press the button to stream this. I saw this tweet, so I managed to get this on the screen. So we'll go for the home side first. What's the latest from Nuno Espirito Santo?
A couple of knocks from midweek. They went extra time, of course, against Bristol City and penalties. Montiel is out. He picked up a hamstring injury, so he's still being assessed, but he's definitely going to miss this one. Wood, of course, is already out with a hamstring problem. Gibbs White is a notable name, certainly a more notable name from a fantasy perspective. He's going to need to be checked on. He suffered pain and discomfort in that game. He finished the match and I think took a penalty. But he's going to be assessed. Sangaria, Bolly, Olaena, they're all still away in international duty. Kuyati's back, and then they recovered Hudson-Odoi and Origi in midweek as well. Right,
yeah, okay, so lots there as well. Yes, Bristol City narrowly defeated by Nottingham Forest. Newcastle, how are they as well? I suppose all eyes on Anthony Gordon. Will he recover in time for this?
Well, Howe didn't completely rule him out, but he did everything but. Okay. He said he hasn't trained this week at all. Okay. Right. And so they don't think the injury's serious, and they're hopeful he can be back sooner rather than later. And he didn't have an idea when he can train again. So he didn't say explicitly that he's definitely out, but all the signs are pointing to that. He wasn't pictured in training in midweek either. Isak is definitely out. Howe did rule him out of this one. And he said Wilson's ready to start up front. Still injured, Joe Linton, Tonali, Pope, Willock, Anderson and Target. Right. I don't think we got an update on Lascelles, who was said to be close last time. One other line of note was there's been calls from the Newcastle fan base to start Livramento at left back over Dan Burn. But Howe, as he usually does, gave quite an impassioned defence of Dan Burn in his presser.
Right, yeah. So you would imagine Harvey Barnes would come in for Gordon?
Not necessarily. I mean, he is back, but he's just had half an hour after, I think, 4 months out. So he might go Almiron and Murphy on the wings to start with and bring Barnes on. But it's a matter of when, not if. He'll displace one of those two when he's fit, yeah.
Okay, right, yeah. So, and obviously Wilson up front there.
Yeah.
West Ham against Arsenal. What's the latest from West Ham?
Yeah, Paqueta's not ready to return just yet. Neither is Antonio, but Antonio is training. He's just way off in terms of match fitness. Nothing on Areola that I've seen. Again, I haven't seen Moyes' presser all the way through. He came off last weekend. I think it was half time, was it, for Fabianski? Back then, Moyes said he was fine, and it was purely precautionary, and he took a knock. Right. And he said he was fine. That's why there's no flag. He said he was fine. So we assume that's still the case. Okay, rightio. So Paqueta being sidelined, that could have a knock-on effect for Bowen. I know Bowen is for some the player that makes way for the likes of Jota, whoever has a double game week. That might influence Bowen owners' decision there. As for Arsenal, Saka was substituted in game week 23. Is he going to be fit for this in 24? He looks like this is about as good as you can possibly hope for from Arteta, really, because he normally gives very, very little away. He said he looks okay, so he's been recovering this week and he looks okay. So he was pictured on the exercise bikes with the rest of the first team on the Arsenal training gallery as well. It was just a second stringer out in the grass. So we assume he's fine. Less clarity on the rest of them. So Jesus missed out last weekend with a knee injury. That was only going to be expected to keep him out for days. That was Arteta's words. Zinchenko was taken off after feeling discomfort in his calf. Tomiyasu's come back from international duty, but when he was asked about those players, he just said, we've got a few in contention. They've been evolving really well. tomorrow we're going to have another training session, and we're hopeful that we're going to get a few back. So as clear as mud.
Okay, right, yeah. I just saw a post in the live chat from Just a Dad posting stuff. Why is nobody mentioning the flu at Liverpool? And then he laughs because I've just mentioned it there, he says to himself. And then if he was scroll back to the section where we went at great detail about the flu at Liverpool in the Liverpool section, and also if he wants to have a look on social media, I understand over the last half an hour there's been countless puns over which players it might be. Would it be Fluez, for example, or Diogo Snotter and things like that?
Oh, and Flunes.
Yeah. So there's a hell of a lot of flu-based puns floating around on social media. So everyone's talking about it. Right. Okay. Let's move on to Aston Villa against Manchester United. What shape are Aston Villa in?
A bit of a slight concern for Moreno owners is that Lucadinha's back in training, so he comes into contention, we think, for the squad. I was asking Tom about this the other day. Tom's our resident Villa fan at Scout, and he says that because of Conser being injured, he's out for 3 to 4 weeks. He thinks Cash and Marino together it might be too attacking, so he might bring in Digne for Marino at some point. I can blame Tom for that if that's wrong.
Okay.
Pau Torres came back in midweek, so did Zaniolo. They were both on the bench against Chelsea. As I said, their Conser's out for 3 to 4 weeks. Yeah. And John Duran, Mings, and Buendia are longer term as well.
Rightio. Cyrus in the live chat has pointed out the other one. Jurgen Koff is the other pun around Liverpool. That's one of my favourites, actually, that one. Manchester United, how are they set up for this? One of their key defenders been ruled out for a while, I understand.
Yeah, he was just back as well, wasn't he, Alessandro Martinez, and did make a bit of a difference there at the rear. He's out for, I think, up to 8 weeks with a knee injury, so that's going to rule him out for till April. Martial's the longer term one. They've still got Malacia and Mount unavailable, and Wan-Bissaka was expected back, but he pulled out of training yesterday, so his availability is unknown.
Okay, rightio. And final match, Crystal Palace against Chelsea. Lots of people dumping Palmer this week for double game weekers, but he's facing a depleted Palace side, isn't he? What's the latest from Roy Hodgson's troops?
Yeah, I can understand that as a medium-term sell, but this week I think I'd wait if you can, because I mean I'm certainly playing him, and I think he's going to be in the scout picks tonight as well.
He's my vice captain.
Start with Palace because they're at home. What a quadruple blow actually. Certainly 3 first teamers. Alicia is out, Eze is out, Mark Gay is out as well, and the fourth is Raksaki, who's very much a backup winger. All but Gay of those have got hamstring injuries. Gay is the one who could be back the soonest, but he's not going to be available for this one. Okay. I've seen timelines of 2 months suggested for Alicia. I've seen timelines of 3 weeks for Eze. Hodgson wouldn't put a figure on it yesterday, but definitely red flagged. Decore and Holder out long term. And the very, very thinnest silver lining of this cloud is that Joel Ward's back in training.
Oh, well, that's fine then.
Solve all the problems.
The king of the championship players for the championship side. How are Chelsea as they send Palace down?
They're certainly. I might, not that I'm advocating betting, but certainly they would be. We're looking at their odds now, Palace for relegation. Chelsea, we've just had Pochettino this afternoon. They're going to assess Badiashile. He limped off in midweek with, I think it was a hamstring. So they're going to see how he is. Colwell could be back from a tendon injury. Okay. They're going to assess him on Sunday. It's a Monday night game, so they've got an extra few days to see if he's going to be available. Chalobah's also in training as well. Aside from that, Lavia, Ogachukwu, James, Cucurella and Fafana still out. Sanchez still only partially in training, so if you're a Petrovic owner, then you're safe for now.
Okay, rightio. Let's have a look at the team news roundup there. Now, some of them are absent. The Villa ones and the Forest ones haven't had time to add those in. But Luke Dean is back in action, which could mean that Moreno misses out. There's certainly rotation could happen there. Fit to play, Saka. Saka's should be fine to play. Questionable, though. Taylor with his shoulder injury at Burnley still. Wan-Bissaka did come back to training, then dipped out again. So very questionable that he'll return. Lo Celso could be back, along with Son. He wasn't injured or anything, but along with from international cup duties, could get a starting place. Badishila at Chelsea's got muscle problems. Colwell's tendon could keep him out, but he could be fit. And Zinchenko is amongst a number of Arsenal players like Jesus, who are questionable at the moment. We just don't know whether they're going to be back or not. So there's a question mark over them. Major doubt towards out is Gordon. He hasn't trained all week. But you never know. Very small chance he'll make an appearance, but very unlikely with his ankle problem. Meanwhile, out, as we just heard, Martinez, a knee problem at Manchester United. That's going to keep him out for a number of weeks. Isak is out with groin problems. Decore is out with hamstring issues, so no last-minute goal there from Decore. That could be a clean sheet there for Man City. Eze, Gahey and Elise, as we've heard, for Crystal Palace, hamstring, knee and hamstring again, respectively for those. They're all out. Big misses for Palace there. Salah's hamstring injury, recovery from a hamstring injury, I should say, is progressing, but he will miss out in 24. Could be back in 25, though. Could be back, or rather could get minutes. Szoboszlai, muscle injury, still problems. Paqueta, Bowen's friend Paqueta is out with his calf problems. And Pedro at Brighton, hamstring injury, is going to keep him out for a number of weeks. Not sure how long that's going to be, but could be a bit of a shake-up up top and in the attacking roles. And could mean that Pascal Gross is on penalties. Hopefully we've got all the team news there. Good luck, everyone watching and listening with your game week. Good luck with your decisions ahead of double game week eve, I think it is, game week 24, and then to go double game week 25 is the one where everyone's sort of aiming for. But there's some good fixtures there for the likes of Liverpool and Luton, etc. Neale, thanks for joining me. See you again next week for some more hopefully good team news for all those in our team. Thanks a lot of time.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks for watching, everybody.
See ya.
Bye-bye.